All right, it is now recording.
All right, hello everybody, this is Dan Hughes, and I'll be your host, primary presenter for this webinar, and I see that we still have a few more people logging on to join, so let's give them some time, give them a few minutes to log on, and while I'm doing that, do a quick sound check, and also want to make sure everybody can hear me. I want to introduce everyone who's already on the call to my co-presenter, the founder and director of content and partner at Adventures in Medicine, Todd Skirtich. Todd, let's do a sound check for you. Can you say hey?
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me, and look forward to presenting the topic.
Nice. Quick sound check. Everybody can hear me okay. Type in 1 in the chat if everybody can hear me. Type in 2 if anybody's having any difficulties. Want to make sure that's good to go. Also, while I'm thinking about it, just make sure that everybody knows that the webinar will be in listen-only mode so that everybody had the benefit of the call. And I'll mention it a few times, but we'll be recording this. And once we have the chance to process both the audio and the visual, we'll post it on our site, and we'll let everybody know where they can get it. So let's wait about 30 more seconds. Appreciate everybody also being on time. And if people are ringing in, looks like we've got a good turnout. All righty, about 30 more seconds. Take a sip of water. All righty. The time we got, all right, we're ending up on 11:30 is our start time. Very good. All right, why don't we go ahead and get started. So now I think, Todd, we're on record mode. Everything's ready to go.
Yep.
So let's get started. So this is Dan Hughes, and I am very, very pleased to be joined by my partner and the founder of Adventures in Medicine, Todd Skirtich. And we are extremely excited to have many of you joining us today on this webinar and to listen in on a topic that is not only critical and top of mind for many in-house physician recruiters, but it's absolutely essential for hospital employers to find the great talent they need to meet the healthcare needs of their respective communities. So we thought a lot about it, and we said, let's call this webinar 6 Simple Steps for Big Resident Recruitment Results in 2017. And we received so much positive feedback from those who registered and are listening in here that this was just absolutely ideal timing as we're moving through the end of our calendar year and planning out the recruitment initiative for 2017, that this topic was dead on. So with that, let me move my cursor here and start being able to click through the slideshow. All righty, so before we get things started, one of the things I really like to do is I want to make sure that everybody who's taking the time out of their day to be a part of this really connect with what is it, who and what is this webinar, and who is this webinar for. I know it's against conventional wisdom. You don't want to promote necessarily drop-off, but, I want people at the end of this time to feel like they've used their time well. So let's walk that through. Who is this webinar for? Let's talk about the in-house recruiters. The in-house recruiters who have registered and are joining us and who are in the audience today, it's for the in-house recruiter who wants to do more residency presentations in 2017. They want to have help on how to secure more of them. They want to know what to talk about. They want to have materials that help support that residency presentation. They also want to connect with residents and physicians at career fairs. If they're doing as many as they should, they want to figure out a way to connect better and deeper with them. They also want to have access to the resources to help their candidates prepare for the interviews and the experience that they're about to have when they're going through the process. We also want to make sure that this webinar is for our physician employers, the people who have joined us who know and appreciate that having a consistent physician recruitment initiative and effort is absolutely essential for the health and the lifeblood of their organization. We also want to make sure that the physician employers and this webinar is for all the people who are looking for have tools and resources for all the stakeholders with the in-house recruitment efforts. And then lastly, we want to make sure that this is a webinar that's for the physician employers who are absolutely committed to career and life balance for the physicians and their residents that they wish to recruit, as well as the actual physicians that they have on staff now and in the future. Lastly, we want to touch on residency programs. You know, we have a few that are registered. We have some success stories we'll talk about with residency programs. But for them, we want to make sure that they recognize this is the residency program, that know that they have clinical, and that's their focus, clinical training, but they also are hungry for and looking for non-clinical content to round out for their practice management curriculum and their ideas there. They want their resources to be educational and engaging, the ones that they pick and choose. And I also know and think it's absolutely essential to have resources that are available 24/7 for those residents and physicians who are training in a busy schedule. So now, if you don't belong to any of those three groups, you know, you're more than welcome to stay. I think the information will be informative. But if you fall in this category and any of these, you're in good hands and you're in a good place to be. So let's see. Let's go and talk a little bit about quickly setting the stage. You know, this is a webinar that we're going to actually try to keep within 30 to 45 minutes. We want it to be actually fast-paced and interactive. We want to make sure that people have a chance to, for those who are going to be a part of it, you know, we're starting at a time where a lot of people are having their lunch, so feel free to treat this as a lunch and learn. Sit back, relax, be engaged, and if we have some questions, periodically we'll ask a few. We'll have them get on and respond, so feel free to do that. You know, we're going to be covering a lot of topics, so when we come through that, make sure that we feel free to involve yourself with what we're talking about. We're going to be, as far as instructions, you know, feel free to turn off cell phones and turn off emails. We're not going to be together much longer. We want to make sure that you get a chance to get as much out of this as possible. You know, takeaways, when Todd and I were thinking about lining up what we wanted to cover today, we had a couple of goals, and we wanted to have you guys have some new ideas and clarity on a couple of things, some big action items. So here's a few of them, but there's definitely not limited to this. How do I reach out and secure more residency presentation? You know, that's what we want to help and achieve as far as takeaways for what you're going to get out of today. And if you're able to secure some of these residency presentations, what are the hot topics that I should be talking about, even if I secure one? What can I do at career fairs to stand out and connect deeper with candidates? We're going to talk about connecting deeper and standing out. What can I do to help qualified candidates prepare for the interview? And here's one that I think you'll find interesting. We're going to want to make sure we give some real insights and clarity as is the career section of my website helping support the hiring and the recruitment process. We're going to examine and explore that a little bit. We're going to talk about, are there resources available to help support the career and life planning challenges that many of you have? The big one that we think that this is really an underrooted statement for everything we're going to be doing is, how do I find the time to do all this and face the demands that we have going on all the time? So there'll be a quick time for some Q&A. We'll have some ideas for some recommendations about what we can do with next action items, where you'll have access to some complementary resources that we'll be sharing. And as we talked about, this absolutely be recorded and shared. So be on the lookout for how we'll get that out there and let you know where we're going to actually be landing on it. And we'll put all that together. So also at the end, Todd and I will put our contact information all ready to go so that you can help there, how to get a hold of us, what would be the best way to contact us if you have any additional questions and wish to have additional conversation about the presentation today. So that sort of sets the stage. I think we've covered some good stuff there. So Todd, you about ready to roll? Jump into it?
Yep, let's roll.
Okay. So here's what we thought we'd do. We thought this thing off would be a fun way and constructive way to start this, is start with some of the questions that we had asked for you guys at registration in the beginning, what you guys think of these. So we asked this question: how important are residency presentations to your hospital or facility recruitment efforts? We asked that, and we got quite a few guys to provide us feedback on it. We gave you 5 options. It's a non-factor, about average, it's important, it's very important, and number 5 is that it's absolutely critical of residency presentations to your hospitals and facility recruitment effort. So let's take a look at what those results were. Take a look at that. There was 50% of you said absolutely critical, and if you include 25%, very important, nearly 75% of all the respondents said that residency presentations to your hospital or facility recruitment is either very important or absolutely critical. So, Todd, you got any thoughts on what you see here?
No, I don't think it's a big surprise. Recruiters and physician employers are sharing that anywhere from 30 to 40% of their medical staff are 60 years and older, and obviously they're going to be retiring here in the next few years, 5 years, 10 years. And so the need to go out and engage and connect and recruit residents is obviously critical.
The next question that we asked was then, how many residency presentations did you do in 2016? So we talked about how important and critical it is. How many did you actually do in 2016? So we gave the choice. You did none. You either did 1 to 2 quarterly, every 2 months, and then either monthly plus, which would be in anybody's estimation pretty aggressive, but we made that as an option. So here's the feedback you guys gave us. Now this one was really surprising. So there was 82% of you said you did not were able to accomplish any residency presentations in 2016. And if you include 1 to 2, 92% of the respondents today said that they either did none or 1 to 2 residency presentations in 2016. So how can this be, Todd?
Yeah, it's a good question. Recruiters and obviously the people who are listening in, you're overworked. You're tasked with non-recruiting projects from maybe your director or the CEO or whoever it may be, and interviewing, taking somebody on a site visit is exhausting and time-consuming. And so, I think the time management and recruiters know that they need to create relationships with residency programs, but many of them don't know where to start. And I think that for the most part, most recruiters, most in-house recruiters, don't see themselves as experts. And I certainly think that anybody that is in physician recruiting and they're under a hospital or medical group, you are the expert in physician recruiting. You have the stories, you have the experiences, and you have a lot to offer and say. So that being said, those are the reasons I think for the most part why in-house recruiters, if they aren't doing residency presentations, those are the reasons why.
Yeah, and I like that they don't view themselves as experts, and we'll be diving into that topic a little bit more later. I think that's a great one. So then we turned our attention to what we have planned for this upcoming year. So some of our questions moved in that direction. Let's take a look at that. So then, if you guys recall, we asked the question, how many residency presentations would you like to do in 2017? And we gave everybody basically the same options that we did in our previous slide, previous question. And look at these results. You guys shared with us that 61% of the respondents would like to do residency presentations quarterly. Then, if you look at 23, add 23, so nearly 83% would like to do 1 to 2 or at least quarterly. And then some have even been aggressively with monthly. But here's what I also think is fascinating. There's not anyone who said they don't plan or wouldn't like to do none. So where last year we had 82% did none, this year no one wants to do none, and quarterly is the goal. So I think this is an interesting insight for 2017. Todd, you got any thoughts on this one before we move on to the last question?
I think having a goal presenting quarterly or monthly or even one per year. I think it's whatever that long-term goal is, it's important to set that. But I think the first thing that anybody that hasn't done these presentations needs to do is you got to start with a 30-second, whether you want to call it a elevator speech or a value proposition. What is this program? What are you going to do? And how does this all kind of come together? So my first is, you got to figure out that before you can go out and set up and coordinate and present at these residency presentations.
Yeah, and I know we're going to touch on that one a lot too. It's about preparation and how to reach out and engage, and that's going to be a theme in our webinar here coming up shortly. So the last question we wanted to make sure we asked, and I think this will sort of be a fundamental framework for the rest of our presentation, what are the biggest obstacles to doing more residency presentations? And in this one, we actually gave everybody multiple choices or multiple questions. They were able to respond to more than one. So moving from the bottom up, we said, was it fear of reaching out through request? And, only 38% of you said that that was an actual issue. So it's not really a fear of reaching out to request. I think this was interesting, not knowing how to start. 79% of the respondents all said that they have challenges in actually knowing where to start. And then we asked, was fear of presenting in front of the group? So only 53% of you share that this was an obstacle. So for the most part, we have people pretty confident and comfortable in presenting in front of others. Looks like the last two own the majority of the feedback, not knowing what to talk about or had to add value. And I think this kind of scales beyond some of the things that people intuitively know, and I know Todd will touch on it, is not basically going out and being a sales pitch about how great your place of employment is, but you know that you don't know, you know that you need to go out and add some value, and you're just not quite sure and know how to do it. And then the last one is not enough time to do all the above and prepare for a topic. So I think that was some fascinating feedback, and that will be a great framework to help us go forward in the future here. So let's see if there's anything else I want to cover before we move on. If anything, Todd, do you have any final thoughts before we jump into the 6 simple steps
No.
to big residency recruitment?
We're ready. We're ready to roll.
All right. Let's dive right into it then. So we believe that simple step number 1 is to commit to quarterly residency presentations at a minimum. I know that, Todd, that we provide a lot of coaching on how and where to start reaching out and securing these residency presentations. Could you provide some thoughts and some key actions that each of our participants can take?
Yeah, yep. And again, I think the first critical step is creating your value proposition for your residency program presentation. And I broke it down into 5 steps here, and I'm going to name these steps. And as I start going through this, there's going to be quite a bit here. And what I'm willing to do after the webinar, you're welcome. We'll have some contact information. If you're looking to have this in writing where you can kind of leverage it as a resource, I'll be happy to provide that to you. But the 5 steps are: you got to set the stage. There's got to be a key message. You got to use emotion, and you have to you got to share with the residents and the program, what are the residents going to benefit and gain based on your presentation, and then use a hook. So I'm going to go over each one of those. So the first one I mentioned is setting the stage. As you probably already know, 99% of the residency program's responsibility is to prepare residents clinically. And as a result, there's a big gap, a major gap in preparing residents for a life and career in medicine. And you guys know that probably more than anybody. So that's setting the stage. So this is what I would share with the chief resident or the medical coordinator of the residency program or the program director, whoever you're talking to. You're sharing this with them. That 99% of the responsibility of the program is to prepare the residents clinically, and as a result, there's a big gap. So there's a need for what you're about to say. So here's the key message: as part of a community service, we, me being the in-house recruiter, is offering the local residency programs a 60-minute residency presentation. And I would emphasize non-biased. This is non-biased, non-promotional, and on the following 3 topics. Okay, and you can have any 3 topics. I chose how to write a CV, search strategy, maybe prepping for an interview. So the 4th component is using emotion and kind of bringing and tying it all together. So I know that this might be hard for some people to say because they don't view themselves as an expert, but I'm going to share with you that you certainly are. And so as an industry expert, I have a passion to share my expertise and teach residents the best practices to transition from training into their life and career in medicine. The next component is how will residents benefit from this presentation? Okay, so what I would say, or what you could say, is the residents will walk away with critical information needed to prepare for a life after residency. My presentation will help residents save time, gain a deeper thinking level, and have an opportunity to ask questions that are relevant specifically to each individual. And the last component is using a hook. By the way, we bring in lunch and soft drinks, and this is what we do. We're going to provide, lunch. We're going to provide this unbiased presentation, and then you can kind of close it in when does your residency program allot time for non-clinical education? So those are the 5 components. And again, I know that I'm rattling off quite a bit, but if you like, I could put together a document. And if anybody's looking for what I just went over, I'll be happy to forward that to any request.
Yeah, Todd, I was writing some good notes here and about the first comment about acknowledging that you understand their challenges, some non-bias content. So I think that would be a great offer for the group to have. And like you said, we'll make that available, how to reach out and let us know if they're interested in that. So, the interesting thing is as you talk about topics, and I think that's going to be also a general subject matter that makes people a little bit challenged, is so I'm going to move our conversation over to what are some of the topics that will actually be hot and add value that is not being pitching or self-promoting. What would you recommend that you could talk to about a handful of these hot topics that the residents and physicians are actually hungry to hear and learn about?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I want to emphasize something that you said, non-promotional, unbiased, and again, if the recruiter's going in there trying to sell opportunities, then the likelihood of being invited back is going to be not good. Hey
Todd, just quick for sound purposes, it looked like something changed. It sounds like you fell off a little bit. Did you do something with your sound settings?
Yeah, my headset fell off, so so I put it back on.
That's all right.
I forgot to put. All right, can you hear me now?
We're real in line. So yeah, so you got your headset back on?
Yeah. Don't worry about me. I'm okay. So thank you. I appreciate that. So I think it's really important what you said, Dan, earlier is emphasizing that this is non-promotional, unbiased. And so if a recruiter is going into a residency program with the hope of selling the hospital and they have their trinkets and their coffee cups and their pens, that is what we're not suggesting. That's something that you might be able to get in once or twice, but it's going to be very difficult to create long-term relationships with residency programs. So what you need to do is you come up with unbiased education and topics. And your question was, what are those topics? Well, a few of them are like a job search timeline, helping them from the start to the very end of the entire process and walking them through it. How to write a CV. Life, money, and career priorities. I mean, that's a pretty significant one that very little information resources are out there. So you can fill a gap within that. Interviewing could be on compensation, could be on contract negotiations, or you can just do the overall building a life and career after residency. So there's a lot of topics. We don't have time to go through every single one, but there's some few good topics right there.
With as many residency presentations as you've done, Todd, of these, which ones do you feel like are the ones that just simply step out?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that. The last 20 that we presented at, we did surveys, and one of the questions is, we wanted to know what topics of interest that they had. So I have a pretty good grasp of this. The top 3 topics are search strategy, interviewing, and contract negotiations. The least favorite is market trends, which we haven't talked about, but that's one of the chapters that we cover in a publication that we send out is markets and trends. And so that was the least interest that they had. So that being said, I think search strategy, interviewing, and contract negotiations are the hot topics right now.
In a high level 30-second, what does search strategy mean?
Yeah, search strategy is how do I go out and uncover the very best opportunity? I can go into job boards. I could go in and contact a outside recruiting company. I can go out and apply from journal ads. So there's a lot of search strategy, but it goes much deeper in than just that. How do you network? Some of those great opportunities are not posted, and if they're looking for a specific area or market, there's strategies that they can do to go out and cover those opportunities.
Good. So as we wrap up this simple step number 1, that committing to quarterly residency presentation, I think we should also address that, the topics should be well researched, and you should also have some very visually engaging information and slides. That's pretty relatively explanatory, self-explanatory, but as you can imagine, the bone dry and unimaginative texts and clinical books that the residents and physicians have spent the past number of, I don't know how many years, nose deep in. And so the last thing you need to do in a residency presentation, whatever topic you select, is just to come up with more boring and dry, text-heavy vanilla slides. So, what I thought we'd do real quickly is just show them, Todd, some popular slides that are looking engaging, and this is one that we have around job search timeline. So this is the one that we use and we make available to our clients and partners. And you notice that we got large, heavy graphics and some interactive text. We always suggest make sure that you let people know when you're presenting what you've got in store for them for the time that they're going to spend. We use and recommend some, inflowing graphics to keep people engaged and active. Here's some other examples as we go through it. And, and also as we talked about, there's something that we can do that, we've got these tempoed and engaging interactive text and content. We've even expanded and we continue to develop, and we look for feedback from our partners and our clients, like MCARE, as to what type of other content topics that they'd like to see out there in the community that will help them be successful. So we have a robust library of content. We are always looking to create more. So that's sort of an idea that the level of standard that we would recommend that you take when you want to go out and start doing these residency presentations, that you pick the topic, make sure that you've made the investment in the visual representation that will help guide and engage your clients there. All righty. So let's move on to simple step number 2 in our ways for 6 steps for high impact resident recruitment. This one is use collaborative exercises to stand out in career fairs. So, that's interesting that we bring that up, and I think everybody who had ever done career fairs knows what we should be doing. Well, let's tackle the why first. If you are a resident recruiting or you're out there doing career fairs, as many as you should be doing, you know that it's absolutely essential to focus and stand out. But if you'll notice that all the potential employers have basically the same items to share with prospective candidates. They have brochures about the hospitals. They probably have some details about the job openings. They probably give away, like Todd mentioned, a cup, a pen, a stress ball is always popular. They have, jars full of candies. So imagine this experience if you're a resident looking to start a career, or if you're a physician looking looking for a change, that all the potential employers start to look the same. And by the end of the night, no one stands out. You've got bags full of stuff that you take home for the kids and the family pet. And Todd and I sincerely believe that recruiters, the good ones, the guys who are taking the time to be on the call today, that you guys need to actually yearn to want to connect at a deeper level with prospects so that you can build that rapport. Trust the relationships and build trust in the relationships for the long term, and even more, differentiate yourself in the crowd. It's easier said than done, though. One of the best ways that we've seen to do this, to facilitate a relationship that adds value, is to actually sit side by side with prospects and perform some sort of collaborative exercise that you guys can work around, a topic that's essential to their career decisions about what lies ahead. We've got topics such as what Todd was mentioning, review of their job search timeline, so that they don't overlook something that's going to create challenges for them somewhere later down the road. We also think that's an excellent side-by-side collaborative exercise is to sit down and review various compensation models so that they can understand the pros and the cons of a signing bonus, income guarantees, performance requirements. We also think that spending time to sit down and talk shoulder to shoulder collaboratively with your residents and potential recruits about the state requirements and some of the community resources that are going to be available if they decide to come not only work for you, but also that it could be the future home there where they would be work. And we actually think sitting down and reviewing community resources and requirements is actually an excellent exercise to do with the spouses and family members. There is a surprising, I put this up here and Todd will go into it as well, there was a surprising number of these talented, ambitious, studious, intelligent residents and physicians actually struggle with some of the basics that a lot of people take for granted. How do you actually write and create a CV that's going to get attention? Even more than that, how are you actually going to prepare for the interview, know the proper etiquettes associated with making a favorable impression during that initial interview? All of these are absolutely outstanding topics. And there are a handful of others that can actually make for a valuable experience that can help you connect and collaborate at a deeper level and build that trust and build that relationship with each of the candidates. So, one of the things that's also essential is to be able to locate and use exercises that can be developed for this very discerning audience. We recommend it be absolutely relevant to the resident's physician. So there's a lot of generic content about CVs and compensation models, but you need to make sure that it's relevant to the resident and physician and their unique challenges. We also recommend that it come from credible industry sources, people who are professionals and understand and appreciate the very unique challenges facing this group. So we believe whatever exercises you pick, make sure that it connects and has credibility with the actual resident's physician. I think equally more important, you want to make a long-term impression, don't give them a cup or a pen. Give them something that they can take with them away from this actual collaborative exercise that's going to be an ongoing reference point for them, and they'll absolutely deeply appreciate and remember, and I know Todd stands behind the whole mantra of adding value, and always looking for what's in the best fit for them. So, what does actual good collaborative exercise look like? Todd, let's take a look at one that we use and provide our partners an access to, and we call that the decision-making worksheet. I know you've used this a lot, and we reference it a lot, but why don't we take people through that so you give them an idea of what a good collaborative exercise that can stand out career fairs look like.
Yeah, this is just one one resource out of many that you can leverage. It's called the Decision Making Worksheet. And as you guys probably know, there's a lot of anxiety, whether it's a doctor who is transitioning from their training into their life and career and they're choosing their first job, or if it's a practicing doctor that's, relocating his family and making a big change in his life. There's anxiety. There's absolutely anxiety involved. And, they go out and they interview at a number of different places. And, one place has this place has that. And if they had their choice, they could move all the moving parts and make it the absolutely perfect, opportunity. And it's just hard for them to make a good decision. So we created a decision making worksheet. And what it does, it helps the candidate remove the anxiety by really having them list their career and life values of what's really important to them. So going back to why they became a physician, going back to what's really important to them. So the candidate, what they do is they assign a number for every value that's important to them. And they rate that value between 1 to 5, 5 being the absolutely most critical, and 1 being not very important. And then what we have them do is we have them assign a probability value between 1 and 5 for each hospital group that they're interviewing. 1 would be very little probability that the value or priority would be fulfilled, and the 5 would be there's no doubt the value or priority would be fulfilled by the hospital group. And then lastly, what we do is we have the candidate multiply the importance value by the probability value, determine the value score. And so you can see down here, employer A, B, and C, you've got 159, 160, and I think this is 187. Not necessarily the one that has the highest value always wins. And I've taken people through this exercise many, many times. And what's happened many times is that they come back and say, I really want hospital B, but my score in hospital A is a lot higher. This is to help them through a deeper thinking level. And so it's not a perfect exercise, but it does provide that more deeper thinking. So on the left-hand side, there's a list of values. And sometimes what they'll do is what's really important to them, they'll have a value, but they'll kind of have it multiple times and they'll call it something a little bit differently. So it could skew the results. But the most important thing is this is a tool that they have some control on. They can speak to their spouse. And the purpose of you, the recruiter, providing this resource, regardless of which job they select, and whether they take your job or they don't, by you introducing the decision-making worksheet will help them think on that deeper level that I just spoke of, and it's going to help them drive their decision. If the candidate decides against your job, you benefit knowing sooner than later, as it's very critical because your interviewing team, a lot of people like to hold on the interview process because they really like a candidate. They're not going to move forward with other candidates until the one that they really like gives an answer. So certainly that benefits you, but it also benefits the candidate. And it really helps them make the right decision and kind of think things through on a deeper level. And again, I've taken candidates through this exercise, and I think this is a service you would like to provide that you'll have an opportunity to do so. So if this is something that you want to do, you can actually get on the phone and take them through it. A lot of them will allow you to do that once you build that trust and that relationship. Now, if you don't have time and you don't want it to be part of your process, that's okay. By just providing them the copy and providing them a little bit of instructions, you'll have a great result from it. So Dan, that's just one resource, the decision-making worksheet. And I think what you were mentioning, go ahead.
I think it's outstanding. I think here's a question for all the attendees. If Todd talked about putting together the flow of your elevator pitch and your presentation and formatting that, making that available, would this be helpful or useful for your next career fairs? And so if you'd like to have this sort of resource at your disposal as a collaborative exercise and you're interested in this, go ahead and type in 2 in the chat group, in the chat side, and okay, looks like everybody'd like to have access to this. So what we'll do here, let me make sure that I think we put this up here. make sure that everybody types in, if you want access to this decision-making worksheet, feel free to type in info@adventuresinmedicine.com with the subject line of decision-making worksheet, and we'll send that out to you right after the conclusion of this webinar. So I think that looks like, Todd, everybody would love to have access to something like this to help guide that conversation. You know, the other thing is that we need to make reference to that there is so many more other exercises that the actual career and life planning workbook that had been the cornerstone of Adventures in Medicine content distribution, the one that's been sent out to 22,500 residents each and every year for the last 7 years and more. There's a whole assortment of exercises and topics that will help each of you connect with residents and physicians on a deeper level. We talked a lot about different topics, kind of like the one that Todd talked about earlier of interviewing and compensation and decision-making worksheet. So if you guys would like to have a complimentary copy of this actual career and life planning workbook, stay with us to the end. We'll give you some instructions on how to do that. And I think this, between what's in this career and life planning workbook, a companion guide that you can help residents, physicians work through their challenges, along with the decision-making worksheet. Now you're starting to hopefully see that simple step number 2 of using collaborative exercises to connect at a deeper level is something that you're going to have some resources at your disposal to actually make happen. Well, let's make sure that I haven't overlooked anything before we jump on to the next one. Yeah, Todd, you know what? I looked like I was surprised how many people typed in 2 and wanted to have access to that decision-making worksheet. So I'm glad we included that here. So that looks good. Okay. All right, let's jump on to simple step number 3, and that is, it's not a surprise. I think it's an actual nice progression, because we talked about connecting. We also said what is a great way to improve and enhance your for 2017 successes. We recommend focusing on the resources and actually even role-playing for interview success. You know, it's interesting that coming off the topic here, let me jump over here, back up a little bit. Sorry about that. Let's see, there we go. All righty, go back over here, get to the next one. You know, we talked about this one being relatively self-explanatory, but you know, it cannot be overstated just how essential and just how dependent so many of these individual residents and physicians, along with who are employers and even the recruiters, for guidance. They actually turn to these people and say, you know, I don't have, and that's something that we didn't get taught necessarily in residency programs as I was going through clinical training. We really don't understand and have access to all of the things that's going to be necessary to help me be prepared for, succeed in, even follow-up etiquettes associated with the first, second, on-location interview. So the question is, who do they turn to? If they're not getting it from residency programs, not something they necessarily have time to look up and go through it. So it's in our estimation that since in-house recruiters have such a big stake in the outcome of the candidate that they select and submit to the interview process, and it also will take up financial sources and resources and scarce time of everybody to go through it, we believe that recruiters, you guys who are joining us today, and the employers, need to focus on these resources for these interview successes. I think you guys are the people that they can turn to. So Todd, you had some thoughts on this. I know this is a topic that you're real passionate about.
Yeah, you know, I think the interview for the, employer, I mean, there's a lot you have invested. Obviously, you are, they don't interview generally with one person. They interview with a team of people, and they don't go there for an hour to meet somebody. I mean, they spend maybe a day, sometimes a day and a half, sometimes 2. And so the amount of time and effort and facilitation, it's time consuming and costly to bring somebody in. And so you want to make sure, obviously, they're prepared And can you provide a value and a service to your candidate to help them do so? And if you can imagine on the mindset of a candidate who is either coming again after a decade of training and they're coming into the market for the first time, or even somebody that's about to make a major change in their career, can you imagine them going on the car ride over or the plane ride over and they start thinking, oh gosh, am I going to like it here? And, am I going to make enough money? And will my family be happy? And all these questions. I mean, it's natural. We all do it. And so that's kind of the mindset they have. And if they go in 95% trying to get a job offer, because that 5% they have those questions just are swimming in their mind, that 5% can cost them the job because what does the employer, the people that are interviewing, how do they pick up on that 5%? Well, they view it as that this doctor is uncertain or uninterested. So the importance of prepping and preparing them. So, one of the things that you can share with them is the goal of the interview. Get them in the right mindset. Hey, the goal of the interview is to get a job offer, and you can do two things with it. You can either accept it or you can decline it. You can't decline something that hasn't been offered to you. And you also can't make a good decision without all of the facts. And you certainly can't get all the facts unless you're prepared. So there's resources that you can provide them that's going to be providing them sample questions that they can ask the employer. There's going to be questions that maybe the employer is going to be asking them. If you can get them to start thinking on this level prior to the interview, and they start thinking this through, obviously the interview is going to go better, and they're going to have a much deeper thinking level. I keep saying that, deeper thinking level. I mean, how could they have a deeper thinking level unless they go through this process and somebody's holding their hand and helping them? They're in a bubble for the last decade, and they have this. It's very tough for them, and so to kind of just jump out of that bubble and just have that mindset that automatically that they need to have, it's not natural and it doesn't happen often. And then I think it's important to explain what your role is. Hey, my role is to help you make a decision whether this is the right information, and I'm going to provide you resources every step of the way. So these are the type of conversations that you can have prior to the interview, and I think you can make a big impact on helping them prepare. And I don't know, Dan, if that's what you're looking for or not, but that's
Yeah, it is. But what's fascinating about how we're doing this is it seems to me that it can be beyond just interviewing. The recruiters, employers should be thinking about with the residents and physician candidates. We're focused on role playing for interviewing success. But why don't you also share some of the additional areas where residents and physician candidates have? There are other concerns and questions just beyond interview success. What might some of those be?
I think it's the entire. It never stops. I mean, even before they get into the interview phase, they need maybe some help drilling down on what type of opportunity they're looking for, and then you got the interview, and then you got the post-interview. But if that doctor ends up becoming a placement, they need help with onboarding. They need help with relocation, and then once they start practicing, the next phase is the 401k. They need help with investing and when to start saving for college. So there's all of these things, and it's just constantly trying to feed the doctors. I mean, once you have them, then what can you do to retain those physicians? So I think that there's resources, and the mentality is to just it's evergreen. It never stops. You constantly educate. One of the things and one of the areas that I wanted to point out that especially with residents, they're focused on the starting salary. They're focused on the loan repayment, as they should. I mean, hey, they have debt, and this is their time. They're a free agent, and they're going into the market for the first time. So there's going to be some focus on compensation. And you guys know, the in-house recruiters, the employers know that sure you can do certain things, and if they come, that's great. But what happens a year or 2 years down the road once the guarantee and they transfer from the guarantee to really a productivity model? If they don't see enough patients, if they don't see and have a practice that can sustain the income, then what happens after 2 years? what happens after 2 years, then they're going to go out and look for another opportunity if they don't maintain the income that they're getting from their salary, because they'll feel devalued. And you see it. You see on people's, a lot of, about 25% of the doctors, they move every couple years. They go from one practice to they're chasing the guaranteed salary. So I think there's a really good opportunity. Some hospitals do this very, very well, and others don't. But having that conversation with them that, hey, this guarantee, this loan repayment's great, but what do you need to do in order to sustain this practice? And having somebody meet with them on whether it's a quarterly basis or monthly basis to make sure they're on that. So that being said, there's a lot of different things that you can do, and I just mentioned just a few of them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know all of these are significant areas that the residents are looking to help launch their careers that they struggle with, and I know they want to be best prepared. And the good in-house recruiters are going to be the ones that are actually helping that take place, where they're investing in the relationship and the outcome that's good for both the residents and the employer, and want to make sure that the residents have access to the materials to help them, knock the interview out of the park. Also have a better comfort level on that compensation and negotiation. It's interesting, Todd, where can in-house recruiters and the physician employers, the participants that are here today, where can they find the content that they can use to help either direct their residents and physicians to, or even them access to help them prepare to support this type of the process?
Yeah, there's two that I know of, and there might be more, but obviously the most basic one is, you go into Google and you pull up, you type in your keyword searches and you pull up your, and you start searching. And it's the pros are that they're unlimited results and information. There's some great resources out there. Of course, the cons are there's so much information that it's very time consuming to figure out what's relevant to your doctor, or whether it's to your doctor, whether it's a different profession, all that kind of stuff. So, it can, some in-house recruiters or even residents, they get a little frustrated because they can't find what they want and they go on to the next thing. The other part is we being Adventures in Medicine, built physiciancareerplanning.com. And what we offer in this resource is you can search among 150 different career and life planning resources, guides, exercises, there's calculators, there's a lot of different information. And this is content from thought leaders in the physician recruitment space, wealth managers, in-house recruiters, just many thought leaders. And it's customized to support the resident and the physician job search timeline, and it's complimentary. So this is something that you guys can use. So whether you use this resource, you use Google, or you use another one that you find, I think you got to go out and secure a resource or a platform to go out and be able to understand what these resources are, and then how do you use them throughout your process.
I like that you brought up the resources that we've devoted years in developing and putting a lot of time into. I'm pulling it up right now. I thought would be helpful is I'm going to pull this over. Can you tell me if you see that, Todd? Can you see that I've pulled over the physician career planning? So just reinforcing what Todd said, here's physician career planning for those who are eager to go look at it. And, take the time to go through. You'll see that we've got things organized by research topic. So interviewing, immigration, CV cover letters, contract and negotiation, exercises and resources that are there, as Todd mentioned, to help support, guide the job search timeline, contributed by subject matter and thought leader experts. And, this is a resource that you can guide and direct your physicians and resident candidates to. Even more impressively, as we've talked about, I think it's essential that you guys are the ones that go and access this, again, sitting side by side, rotating and role-playing and guiding them through that. So, again, that physician career planning, we'll make reference to it a little bit later down the road in our webinar today, but that's available for you, and I think that would be a dynamite resource to help support the stages that we've talked about thus far. So with that in mind, let's move on here. Yep, that's there. Oh my goodness, already. My goodness, here we are. We're already at the halfway point. Let me take a look and make sure that we've, let's recap here. So 6 simple steps. We talked about simple step number 1 is commit to the quarterly residency presentations, at least at a minimum. So I think 61% of you said that's what you want to accomplish. If you add in another 20+%, nearly 80 some odd percent want to at least do quarterly, if not 1 to 2 of them for the year. Step number 2 is use collaborative exercises to stand out at the career fair. And so we showed reference to resources that can help you accomplish that, including that the timeline and the worksheets. And then we talked about focusing on the resources and role playing for interview success. So while we take a break at halftime just for a second, get a sip of water. How are we doing so far? And hopefully everybody's getting some value out of this. So if you guys would, I know some of you have been, almost all of you have been pretty active in contributing comments and chats. It looks like we've still got just about everybody on. So if you would, type in the chat group a 5 if we're doing an outstanding and beyond expectations. Type in 4 if we're doing great and very valuable information. A 3 if it's solid and you're finding it stuff you can use. 2 if it's just okay and you're just getting only a few ideas. And then 1 is a total waste of time, and hopefully that's not what we'll find here today. But also, you know, it looks like we still have some questions that are coming in. So while I will let people type in a 5, a 4, a 3, 2, and a 1, let's take a look at questions coming in. A couple of people asked, yes, you know what, yes, we will be, we have, and as we mentioned earlier, we're recording this. And so I know many of you will want to share this internally. And so those who have joined late, that we shared in the beginning, that we will be recording this, and we'll send out an email to everybody once we process and we put it on a landing page or somewhere on our site that you can get access to. We'll send you the details of where you can go to get that. You know what, I think would also be a good idea, and see if we can do it, because this is a very in-depth and long webinar. We'll create it so that we can actually hopefully segment the sections so that you can go right to the different steps that you may want to revisit and take a look at again. Looks like another question that's being asked a couple of times is people are wanting to get access to or talk about how they can access PowerPoint presentation that we showed and some of the other content. So rather than address that one at a time, let's hold off on that individual responding. At the end, we'll provide contact details and emails of where you can request some more of this information. So it looks like we've got mostly 5s, 4s, couple 3s, solid stuff that we can use. So nobody else below that. That's good. So I'm glad we're adding some value here. All right. Well, I guess let's continue on then. So it looks like we're doing what we said to started off to do, and let's move on. All righty. So simple step number 4. This is one that I think is going to be a good one to dive into, is that we sincerely believe, this is a big topic, kind of a personal favorite, but your website needs to talk to physicians and candidates too. You know, employer branding, that includes the organizational website, is a super hot topic just across every industry sector, but even more importantly for healthcare and physician employers. And I think it is absolutely essential to be competitive for the talent in the marketplace. You know, any hyper-competitive resident physician recruitment landscape, failure to make sure your hospital or facility website talks to them can be a hole that sinks the ship. It really can. It can also make it extremely difficult to actually go anywhere. You know, this is more, and I'm going to click on this, this is more than a career page and more than a job posting. There are places where you have a career opportunity page somewhere buried 10 layers deep on the website, and usually it's got specific position opening, but also married in there with a bunch of other things for internal operations and different things, nursing and administrative staff opportunities. And this is more than just about distributing job postings to the internal on your internal career page, or even out and on all the different job boards. As Todd mentioned, there's only a small percentage of the job opportunities are actually posted on those sources. So in just about all cases, it is in the hundreds of hospital websites that we've examined at Adventures in Medicine have been asked to examine and assess. Each one of them is either patient-focused, physician specialty focused, or community focused. But 201, they either score a D or a complete F when it comes to having some portion of the site be employee or employer focused. So if you're truly committed to successfully resident and physician recruitment effort in 2017, and to provide the internal and in-house recruitment groups the resources they need to support reaching target and talent acquisition goals, you must be able to start working on building an employer brand on the website. Absolutely essential. So what does this look like? We're not talking about a complete overhaul of the website or having to dedicate thousands of dollars to build something from scratch. But here are some just essential ingredients that we think are absolutely critical to have the website talk directly to a physician candidate. Here's some recommendations. Make sure that there are contact details for each member of the recruitment team, and their email, a direct phone number, LinkedIn or some social bio. A picture is good. I mean, have the details of each member of the recruiting team available. We recommend having an image gallery of video of the facility. You know, that old adage is a picture is worth 1,000 words. I'd even say a moving picture or video is worth 1,000,000. I mean, have something that the people can actually see, your candidates can actually see what it's like to be a part of that organization. Include a testimonial from practicing physicians. What do their potential peers actually think about working there? Write about the work environment, the community of patients, what it's like to live there. Highlight the CEO and include a personal message. You know, having leadership talk about core mission, the principles, the value of the physician talent to this organization is an absolutely significant part of it. I would recommend, and Todd and I recommend with the Adventures in Medicine strategy, is to link to online and social properties. You know, have internal blogs about life as an employee, what it's like to work there, have patient success stories. We think this is a critical one, is linked to community resource. Prospective candidates, along with their family members, the partners, the people who are their support system, they need to have access to information about the community that they potentially could call home. So, you know, that to me is absolutely a critical part of it. So, you know, what we ought to do, Todd, is at this point, why don't we show them a sample of what it actually may look like, of what a good one is. As we've done hundreds of these. Let's see. Let me pull this one over. Go back and let me pull up a website here. See if I can pull this up. Okay. Here's what we're talking about. Can you see this, Todd?
Yep.
Is it coming through good? Okay. So here's some recommendations. You know, we talked about each of those, and we talked about taking what it looked like. You know, we've done hundreds of these, we'll call them profile pages, for our employer partners, including CHS healthcare facilities. And, you know, we know it does not take much to make a significant difference in the prospective candidate's experience. So as well as for the employer recruitment team to have a valuable employer branding platform that we can direct people's attention to and help substantiate that feeling. So, Todd, why don't you share quickly a brief story about this particular one, it's Abilene Regional, and some of the things that we were able to accomplish with them.
Yeah, if you want to scroll down a little bit, you know, you've got of course, the address, and if you click on the expand more to view more contacts,
Oh, right here. Yeah, I
Yep.
remember that. Right.
You have the other recruiters that, whoever's on that team, you have that contact information. But on the right hand side, you've got the spotlight, and here's a little Q&A from the CEO. What is it like to practice at this hospital? What's the philosophy? It doesn't have to be from a CEO. It could be from a medical director or a practicing physician, but it provides the space for kind of start sharing your story, your values, who you are, what you're about, and why maybe a physician would want to come practice with you guys. If you keep scrolling down, we have on the left-hand side now, you have the links. So this is where you have your physician opportunities. This is a resource that this particular hospital built about career planning and resource library. But then you have your social media links as well. You keep scrolling, and then you start getting into the testimonials. What is it like to practice at this particular hospital? And some words of wisdom maybe from a practicing doctor. Really important, critical piece of this is a community research, and this is some data that we have that we've pulled with one of our partners. You can get into schools, you can look at houses, you can look at areas, the home values. So if you go back to the schools and go back to the schools, and so here you have the schools. If you click on one of those, I click on any of them, and so it's going to be pulling up some nice demographics. So this is an opportunity for physicians, significant others. What kind of school systems do they have? How are they rated? What are the demographics? And so you can see that there's a lot of information here. So this provides not only a page for you to start telling your story about the hospital, what it's like to practice, maybe practice opportunities. Obviously, if they're interested, they're going to click on the practice opportunities and apply to your opportunity. But this also starts telling a story about your community and what they offer. I mean, if you go into places of businesses, just real quick, Dan, it breaks it down by community, golf and fitness, health and medical. And so you can expand any of these. What kind of movie theaters? Is there a Walmart? Is there shopping? Is there, what are the golf courses? So you can click in any of these, and it's going to start drilling down and providing you a lot more information. So this is a good opportunity to really educate. So in-house recruiters, what they're doing is they're driving people to this page and start, hey, take a look at that community. And maybe they have some type of church need. They have a belief, and they want to make sure that there's a certain type of church there. So this page here is simple, but it could be very powerful. And so what I've noticed in a lot of hospitals, and again, Dan, you've touched on it big time, is you have a lot of hospitals spend most of their money, and the website, it's really for the community. It's for the patients, which it makes sense. I understand. It's very important. But another really big piece, especially as these baby boomers, the doctors are getting older and you're going to have to replace them. There needs to be a spot where people can access a profile page that speaks very specifically about your opportunity, your values, and what you can offer. You got to have that branding, for that particular for the candidates. You got to send them. You be able to send them somewhere. So I don't know if that's what you were looking for, but
Absolutely, that's exactly what I was looking for. So I think the message that we want to make sure is here is that there are numerous strategies associated with getting an employer brand page active without having to wait and burden on a web development resource or get marketing involved. You can integrate state level and local level community resources about practicing medicine and or what life is like in that particular state and location. And distributing this profile page across authority sites that can be leveraged once you have in place. But the most important message is simply this. Make sure your website talks to candidates too. And we've touched on it. We'll do it one more time. Most sites are community, patient, or specialty focused. Very few have a place and a platform that says, this is what it's like to come here. This is how important you are to us. These are the contacts that you can have. And we advise that you need to have a place if you truly want to be supporting the habits of the new generation of physicians and residents, as well as to empower your resident recruitment and your physician recruitment operation with a solution that's going to help them drive people to. This is absolutely an essential part of it. So all good? All good, everybody? Okay, give me one in the chat if everybody's still with me. We're ready to keep moving forward. Let me move this out of the way. Todd, how are we doing on time?
We're a little bit behind, but I'm hoping that there's a lot of content. There's a lot of good things here, so hopefully everybody's still with us.
Nice, nice. You know, I think we'll be able to bounce through some of the rest of it pretty quickly here. So let's accelerate and pick up to it. So, simple step number 5 of 6: demonstrate your commitment to career and life balance. I think it's fair to say that the dynamics associated with resident physician recruitment had changed dramatically, particularly when it comes to balancing a career in medicine or having a life outside of medicine. It's no longer just about starting salaries and income potential. It's much more. And your candidates, residents, and physicians are hungry to know that each of you here and the employers you represent, that their future home, or either to launch their career or continue a career transition, will be committed to their career and life balance. But it takes so much more than just good talk or a good marketing sales pitch. Here's some ideas that we would recommend that you guys want to do if you want to be considered and build and maintain that reputation as the best places to work. Invest in ongoing development. Have a game plan in place to provide ongoing development, whether it's monthly or at a minimum quarterly. It can be done as part of a routine group meeting of physicians at a lunch and learn, or it can be a completely separate and designated event dedicated to a particular topic, content, or skill to share or develop. We also think that you ought to have and show a calendar of these events, topics, and dates. Like we said, there's nothing better and more cementing that says, hey, we actually have and are committed to a calendar, either on paper or some predetermined date, that we're going to be talking about this topic that is all about balancing your career and life and managing your stress and your transition. Nothing speaks louder than action. And we know that physicians at all levels, particularly these new waves of residents, are eager to move on just dollars for the career, and they want to find a group that cares about their ongoing development. So one of the ways that we talk about this is to actually curate content for a resource library. We think it's one of the most powerful ways to do this. So a simple step, again, going through all this, is to actually build or curate your own library of resources that are available for residents and physicians to take some of that demand and stress that they will undoubtedly face in their careers as staff physicians. Todd, based on your experience in working with these residents, physicians, in-house recruiters, employers, and even these many physician recruiting associations, what are some of the topic categories and content resources that great resource libraries should include?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we touched on this earlier in the webinar. There is so many topics. It starts when even before they get out of residency and they make the transition all the way through the interview process, the post-interview, the post-placement, goes into the onboarding process, and then once they're there, it goes into the really the wealth management, the practice management, all of those tools. So there's a lot of content that doctors are looking for. A couple recommendations that kind of stand out to me is one could be how to build a successful practice. What do they need to do? The ins and outs of being successful. So we talked a little bit about they get the guaranteed salary, and then they, most people go on to some type of productivity base. What do they need to do to build that practice and sustain it, and so they don't have a drop off? Another one is wealth management. I had a good buddy who, was making a lot of money, and right when he graduated, he went ahead and said, hey, with the retirement, I don't have to really worry about it. I'm going to concentrate focusing on paying my school loans. And and then the following year he, had a child, and 2 years later he had another child. And so 20 years after, he's practicing, he never invested. And so what he could have invested, even if it was $1,000 a month, the compound interest and all those things could have made a huge difference. And so, his response was, why didn't somebody tell me? So, wealth management, saving for college for their children, you start from day one. If you don't, then it's very difficult to kind of break that, because now your overhead and where you live and your cars and all it's very difficult to undo. Another piece I think is really important is the life, money, and career priorities. And I think, how do you balance? How do you, what are all the pieces to the puzzle, and how do they start sorting these pieces and putting it all together? So it's unlimited. It's an unlimited set of topics to choose from, and I believe it's essential that in-house recruiters and employers and anybody in HR, anybody who's associated with supporting the career and life of their physicians, devote ongoing attention and time to aggregating and curating the best content and resources possible.
I think that's the key is, I think we're talking about what a great way to demonstrate a commitment to a career and life balance. Interesting, though, is that even with all of this and what we talked about, we know how difficult and time-consuming finding the stuff from the thought leaders that's actually relevant to this particular audience that will make a significant impact is hard enough if this is all you do. So one of the things that we talked about, and I think would be ideal, is moving over and saying, taking a look at that resources. I want to drag it back over here. If you guys recall from earlier in the webinar, we referenced the Physician and Career Library as a resource. And so let's come back here. Physician Career Planning. Not only is this a resource that you can go to grab individual content pieces, but imagine having this as a resource that is available to have and support that commitment to career and life balance. So if you take a look, we have all and numerous resources, tools that will help guide that through and take a look at what these things look like, from non-clinical careers to physician compensation, to wealth management, lifestyle, and career priorities. Many of those topics that you talked about, Todd, are things that if somebody actually navigates through and wants to take a look at, is available. And go down here and hit search. And you'll see that there's numerous tools and exercises that are available to help define your value and life purpose statement. Personal preference versus market conditions, assessing family needs. Many resources that are available to do that. So, with over 100+ topics and exercises and tools that help tackle many of these things that Todd outlined, we also want to talk about how we've helped integrate some of these with some of the partner sites that we have. So, when I'm pulling this up, taking that same resource library, let's take a look at a few of these. Todd, you want to make a quick comment on what University of Maryland Medical Systems has done here?
Yeah. This is they wanted to build an experience so doctors and physicians and candidates can access this resource through their main website. So this is a platform that we had built. They wanted something separate. They were using the physician career planning tools, but they wanted, hey, if there's candidates that go onto our website, what can we do to enrich their experience? So we built this for them. If you go and click on the top row, residency, workshops, and presentations, the third column, you click that.
Click on that, okay.
Yeah. So what this organization's done, so now they're putting in, how we talked a little bit about the residency presentation. So here's a community service that they offer to residency programs. And
wow, that's cool.
The resident or a program director or somebody else, whoever's interested in scheduling these, they can write what topic they're interested in, and they can fill out their information. And so here's, it not only solves, helping and provide career and life planning tools within this platform, but it also has nice call outs for the doctor or somebody to go out so they can set up residency presentations. So if you want to hit the back button real quick.
Sure.
And if you want to click on now, scroll down a little bit. So you have the physician opportunities on the bottom row. You don't have to click on that right now, but they wanted a spot where, hey, if somebody wanted to apply and search for opportunities, they wanted to be able to provide that opportunity. Here's a residency resource library. So if you want to click on that. So what we've done here is we built this resource, and you don't have to go through anything, Dan. We'll just kind of explain it, where all the resources that we just showed you on physician career planning, we have embedded them into this platform. So now the doctor doesn't have to go to physiciancareerplanning.com. They retain the visitor, and they provide, and there's ways they can send certain links and certain resources onto social media, and then it drives them to this particular platform. So I just wanted to share with you that this is one, and we don't have time to go through the entire thing. But let me show you another platform too. So this is with residency programs. We built this one for University or the College of Medicine at Rockford. And if you want to scroll down, residency was supposed to be the hard part. Contract negotiations, determining practice type, financial planning, let us help. So again, the users can go to a page that is at their residency program. And there's a video that introduces exactly how to use this whole platform. So there's just different ways that we have embedded and built pages for either residency programs or physician employers who want to enrich the experience of their residents and physicians.
Wow, that's cool. And I think that sort of wraps up that, the opportunity to integrate the resource library into your website. Like Todd was mentioning, not only will it make it available and easy to access 24/7, talk about, one of those earlier statements, reinforcing your employer brand and making a bold declaration to any and all those residents and physician candidates that you truly care about their ongoing development, balancing their career and life, managing stress, and much more. I think that's also a nice transition into this last step, which I know that we're running short on time and we'll be brief because I think it will be a nice segue in. So we talked about those. Let's jump right into how this sort of plays. A simple step that we have for big resident recruitment success is actually having a world-class onboarding experience. Again, this is relatively self-explanatory, but I know just at the top level in-house recruiters and resident physician recruiters, the whole team, including all stakeholders in the recruitment and hiring process, everybody wants to make sure that their new physician hires get off to a good start. They want a smooth transition. They want to make sure that there's an exceptional onboarding experience. I think that's one of the actual best sources for future recruiting prospects. We talk about big impact for future recruiting. A happy resident and physician letting their community of colleagues know about their experience. Todd and I believe that this is just a fundamental step to not only submit any organizational retention goal and objective for some of the most valuable doctor assets. This is key to a rock-solid retention strategy. This is fundamental first step to submitting any organization retention goals and objectives. And then also, that very same resource library that we talked about is, I think, one of the best ways not only to demonstrate your commitment to career and life balance, but it also goes on to say, hey, we're here for the long term. We want you, we value you, we want to make sure you have the actual resources that's available, as well as helps make life so much more simple for the recruitment organization and its personnel. And again, so I know we whizzed through this simple step 6, but I think everyone is starting to see now how leveraging the different resources and the right resources can have a huge domino effect, impacting across many and all of these areas. Just as simple yet powerful steps for resident recruitment success in 2017 and beyond. So I think there you have it. I'm going to rifle through these real quick. And Looks like most everybody is still with us here, so that's good. While I'm clicking down here, please type in a 5 in the chat if we're continue to exceed expectations. Let me go back one, missed that one. Go back. Type in a 4 if we're doing great and providing some valuable content. Outstanding stuff. Look, nice. So this is it. 6 steps. Whoops, one more time. Go back. I think the slide's getting tired. They're eager to keep going. Oh, good Lord. Okay. So real quickly, 6 steps. Commit to quarterly. You know what? That's sad. I forgot. I didn't even spell quarterly correctly. Quarterly. All right. Commit to quarterly residence presentation. Use collaborative exercises to stand out at career fairs. Focus on resource and role play for interview processes. Make sure your website speaks to physician candidate. Demonstrate commitment to career and life balance and have a world-class onboarding experience. These, I believe, are simple steps that can actually make a huge impact for 2017. Are they easy? No. Are they powerful? Absolutely. With the right resources, the right mindset, accessing what's available, not only can it deliver big impact on the residents and the physicians you wish to recruit, as importantly, it's going to achieve that goal of giving the group that's responsible the time and the bandwidth to actually be able to start achieving that goal of quarterly, if not more, residency presentations that was part of the goal. So let's transition, Todd. I know that we have questions. There's a lot of people who submitted questions before, and it looks like we've had a series of questions that have come in on there. So let's jump right into it. And obviously, if we don't get to the questions, your question specifically, make sure you email us, and we'll respond as soon as possible. We'll also be providing our email and contact details at the end. So, Todd, since you probably have the master list of questions, let's just take a quick, small sample of them, and you ask the questions, and let's put a response together and see what we come up with here.
Yeah, one of the questions here, let's see, the 6 steps you mentioned today make sense to me, and I know that it needs to be implemented. However, I barely have enough time to complete the tasks that I currently have assigned to me. How do I remove the non-recruiting task when they're assigned to me by my supervisor / CEO? So that's a pretty good question. We live in an evidence-based world, or especially in healthcare. Physicians, very evidence-based, black and white, scientific. Healthcare is coming that way too. Everything is being measured and what have you. So, one of the things I would offer up, just by talking to a lot of in-house recruiters, they're being torn in all these different directions, and a lot of them doesn't have to do with physician recruiting. So one of the things I think I could recommend is, just start recording your time. And hey, what are you doing? And is it recruiting related or is it not recruiting related? And take inventory. And after a week's time, I think you're going to have a pretty good sense of what that is. For me, I know I've managed people in the past, and I'm always, hey, I want to go out and I want to conquer the world. I want to do things, and I seriously had an issue with assigning people multiple tasks, and I started figuring out very shortly, well, maybe not so shortly, but it took me some time, that once once I understood what I was doing, I kind of trained my employees to say, hey, listen, Todd, I can do that for you, no problem. But if I do this, then I can't do this, which was their core job. Is that what you want me to do? And I think sometimes it's just communicating to your supervisor or your director or your CEO or whoever it is that, hey, I'll be happy to do whatever you want for me. But if I do this, it may take me away from my core responsibilities. Is that what you want me to do? So you constantly are just taking inventory. But I think that one of the things that you can do is, what are you doing? What's working well? what's not working well, and I think at the end you're going to be able to assess and free up some time there, and maybe you start investing some time into some of the things that we talked about today. So that
I
was
also
one.
think that's a great, yeah, I think that's a great also, we've been presenting and talking about where and how you can leverage some of the best resources out there. So hopefully, as continuing to provide and be a resource to help, our core focus is to deliver best of class information to residents and physicians on their career and life planning, and our complementary core is to give and enable and empower the resident recruitment, the recruitment stakeholders inside of these valuable employers, which we've done for hundreds of our partners, to give them the resources and powers to go out and accomplish these goals. So I love the idea that we have to be proactive in setting expectations and giving people some feedback, but I also think it's fundamentally important to make sure that they are aware of and leveraging the resources that they can to streamline and expedite and have, and even some of the things that we're going to invite people to have access to, your script for reaching out and how to secure a residency presentation. And then the master, what do we call that, the timeline, the strategic timeline planning worksheet. I mean, finding and leveraging those resources available is going to be a huge support in that.
Another question came in, and I'm smiling when I'm reading this. We live in a world that everything is measured, rate of return, everything we do. How do we measure the ROI on the recommendations you made today? I think that's a great question. How do I answer that? Well, obviously, you have to measure everything that you do. You spend a tremendous amount of money on going to career fairs, signing up for job boards. You're going to continue to do that. The question becomes, how do you differentiate the experience from your competitors? How do you provide more value? How do you, when there is a doctor and you get them from a resident list or whatever the case may be, how do you enrich that experience? And I'll share with you that it's very difficult to put a dollar and cent on it. There's just some things that you need to do to kind of gain that competitive spirit. And I think the recommendations that we've provided today, a lot of them, several of them are complementary. The resources that we can provide you, there's certain things that we can give you that is going to at least get you on the right start. But I think that, what is the risk of not providing a competitive advantage? What's the risk of not doing it? And it's going to be tougher to recruit more and more physicians as, these baby boomers are retiring. And you know it, I know it. And, how do you create a rate of return to go out to a residency program and create a relationship with the residents, not only to get in there one time, but to go in there on an ongoing basis. And whether that's monthly or quarterly or yearly, it's up to you. But it's hard to, measure it, but it's something that that you need to do. So measure everything. Constantly take inventory of what you're doing and what could you be doing more to provide a better service. So that's kind of how I would answer that question.
Like it. I think those are two pretty powerful questions and responses. Again, inviting people to reach out to us and provide questions offline that we'll be able to respond to. So why don't we, Todd, just go on and click through and finish up our
Sure.
presentation today so people can get on here. We certainly appreciate everybody staying on with us. Hopefully, it looks like we've done our job of adding some value and giving you guys some real clarity and things to think about for what can you be doing in 2017. So, one of the things I thought would be helpful is at the beginning we talked about the takeaways that we wanted to make sure that we hit on, and that was sort of our goal. Let's just see how we did here. So we talked about one of the takeaways. We want to give you some ideas and clarity on how do I reach out to secure more residency presentations. So hopefully we we did a good job addressing that. This is one I think we hopefully hit really good is what can we do at career fairs to stand out and connect people with candidates. I think we were successful here. Obviously here, what can I do to help qualified candidates prepare for the interview? We spent a good deal of time going through not only just interview, but a lot of things on either side of the interview, preparation for, negotiation, compensation, strategies, etc. We touched on this one here. We wanted to make sure is a career section of your website helping support the hiring process. I think it would be fair for most everybody here to say no, it's not, compared to particularly to some of the things that you were able to see, some of our essential ingredients about what is actually a good one looks like. Are resources available to support career and life planning challenges? That was one of the goals. I think we hopefully accomplished that one. How do I find all the time to do this and demands faced every day? You know, sort of the undertone of all that, and hopefully we provide everybody with some clarity that there are some good resources and strategies out there that can help you accomplish all this and more, reach that goal of at least a quarterly residency presentation. And then, yeah, let's move on to here. Let's talk about some of the recommendations that we talked about. Let me jump over here, make sure we get this. Okay, so one of the things we talked about is make sure you request your copy of the Career and Life Planning Workbook. So you're more than welcome to do that. We talked about that as an action item. Check out that physician career planning. We took and invited you a couple times to go look through that, look through different resources. If you guys are interested at all in having additional conversations with us about these things and strategies, you're more than welcome to reach out and schedule a conference call with us. Let's see here. Yes, here we're testing the 13 topics that we talked about, presentations. We have those PowerPoints presentations, so if that's what you'd like to talk about, if you want to have additional conversations on our recommendations and strategies about how to build an employer brand profile page, we're more than happy to talk about that. Again, integrating career plan library, some of the one-on-one coaching that we do. Let's see here. Group workshops. Yep. You know, one of the fundamental things I want to make sure we touched on before we wrap up here is that we're going to make sure that we record and process and put this on a site. And we want to make sure this is a tool that each of you who spent the time with us today and hopefully received the value that we promised can come back and reference it. We talked about we're going to try to segment them based on each of the 6 steps or some of the major points that you can go back and refresh. But we also want to make this a tool that is an empowerment tool that you can share for all the stakeholders, from the everybody who's involved with resident and physician recruitment process equation, from the CEO to operations to community outreach to all the recruitment. This is a tool for you guys to helpfully use, and you know, just about every one of our partners that have shared that the Adventures in Medicine resources have been instrumental in helping recruitment get the support and understanding of the resources they need to deliver from all members of the organizations and to help get everybody on the same page. So that's going to be there for you. We're going to make sure you get the emails on how to access it. By all means, feel free to share it and use it internally as a resource to help you accomplish those goals. So let's take a look at, alrighty. So that sort of wraps up our 6 simple steps for big residency recruitment results in 2017. Again, if you want a complimentary decision-making worksheet, obviously type in info@adventuresinmedicine.com with the decision-making worksheet in the subject line. If you'd like to request your complimentary copy of that full career and life planning workbook, do the same, put it in the subject line, send it to. If you'd like to schedule a conference call where we can go through this, reach out to sales@adventuresinmedicine.com. Here's Todd and my individual email addresses, so you're more than welcome to reach out to us. And I think we'll leave this up here, Todd, for a little bit as we wind down. So any parting thoughts as we wrap this thing down and bring it to a close, Todd?
No. Thanks for taking the taking us through this. This is hopefully it's good for everybody.
Good. So on behalf of Todd and I and the whole Adventures in Medicine team, I thank you all for being a part of this webinar today. You know, I hope we fulfilled our promise and over-delivered on the value for the time you spent with us. Again, feel free to email us your thoughts. Let us know how we can help you make 2017 your very, very best resident and physician recruitment year ever. And thank you, everybody, for making the time. So let's keep this on here for a little bit, Todd, and we'll keep this up for those who are on there writing this down. And Todd, I think you can end recording, and then we'll